How do you differentiate and separate between who you are and what you do? This is Brian Cain with the Mental Performance Daily Podcast, and today I take you inside of a clip from a long-form podcast I did with Matt Carpenter of the San Diego Padres. Now, Carp and I go all the way back to 2006 when he played at TCU on one of the first college baseball teams I ever did consulting with. And he's still playing today for the San Diego Padres. He's a three-time Major League Baseball All-Star. He's a World Series champion, and he's a master of the mental game. Now, I asked Carp a question, which you'll hear live in the podcast interview that I do with him that I'm going to share with you here, where I asked him about how do you separate between who you are and what you do? Because a lot of my clients, whether they're athletes, whether they're coaches, whether they're CEOs, they struggle with separating their sport or their career with then who they are outside of that. They struggle separating between student and athlete, between parent and coach. They struggle with that because they take so much pride in what they do. And when you personalize performance, meaning you see some of your self-worth wrapped up in how you perform in your job or in your sport, it's a double-edged sword. One, it's going to motivate you to do better, but two, you're the constant critic. And it's never good enough. And at some point, that personalizing performance and never being able to get away from your sport crushes you. And if you've seen the documentary on Netflix called Full Swing, you see this happening with Brooks Koepka. All he talks about is winning and being obsessed with winning. And they show a clip of him with his wife talking about their wedding, and all he's doing is sitting there thinking about golf. He hasn't yet come up with a process to effectively separate who and do. So I want to share a strategy with you today from Matt Carpenter, where he's going to talk about using his clothes and showering well to separate baseball and life. And I think that's a strategy that we all can use because we get dressed to go to the field. We get dressed to go to work. And just like an athlete might put on a uniform, or someone in law enforcement or in firefighting, first responders, they put on a uniform to get ready for what they do. I want you to use that same strategy and really be intentional about separating who and do. Let's join Matt Carpenter. Talk about, Carp, just the importance of changing your clothes from street clothes into the uniform. And at the end of the day, from uniform and showering well back into street clothes, and how that helps you to separate being a baseball player and being a dad, because you had your kids and your wife with you on the road quite a bit. And I think for a lot of the people on the call here, sometimes it's difficult to separate what I'm doing in my business every day to come home and be present with my family. I know that's a challenge that we hear a lot.
No doubt. And if you would have, I would be the first to tell you that when I was younger, that was not an area that I was great at. I could not turn it off. I felt like the whole reason that I had made it to the major leagues is because I grinded and I nonstopped and I outworked people. And I was, 100% committed to this thing, and I was committed to it 24/7. As I've gotten older, I realized that not only was that not necessarily true, there's a better way of doing it. And having the ability now to truly, and this is something that has gotten better every year, and last year, along with, and I consider this part of the mental game as well. It's all part of it, that I did as good a job as I ever have of, and that is walking into the stadium, putting on that uniform, and now I'm a New York Yankee, or this year I'm a San Diego Padre. I'm a Major League Baseball player. I'm Matt Carpenter, the infielder for the, San Diego Padres. And I'm all in on that because that's where I'm at. And as soon as that uniform comes off, or that, jersey or workout, whatever it is, and I put back on my street clothes, now I'm, Matt Carpenter, the father, the husband. And being able to separate that, the two things that I've learned from that: one, you obviously, your loved ones are going to appreciate that, and you're going to have better relationships and better experiences with them. But the beauty of it, and that I have learned now, is when you adopt that mindset, you have more to give when you are on both sides, when you're with your family and when you're at work. It is not sustainable. And I've learned that the hard way, to always have it turned on. If I'm constantly grinding over my job and I never have the ability to turn it off and be able to escape, whether to be, be a dad or to, have a hobby or do something other than grind over whatever you do for a living, you will never get the most out of it. And that's the kind of the tricky thing, is because you think that you have to be that way to get the most out of it. But the reality of it is, and I've experienced this from personal experience, when you have the ability to turn it off, you have more to give when it's time to turn it on. And this year, this year I was able to do that to, probably the best that I've done it in my career, and it paid off.
So you heard Matt Carpenter of the San Diego Padres talk about when you can turn it off, you have more to give when it's time to turn it on. So my question for you here with the Mental Performance Daily podcast is, how do you separate who and do? How do you turn it off? A couple strategies that you can use. One, your clothes. When you put the uniform on, be in the uniform. When you take the uniform off, be out of the uniform. Be where you need to be when you need to be there. Be where your feet are. Strategy number 2, shower well. At the end of the day, when you wash off that day's performance as a CEO, as an athlete, as a coach, and you put your street clothes, normal clothes back on, separate who and do. And the third strategy that you can take and use is to keep a performance journal. High performers, high achievers, they're constantly thinking about what it is they need to do next to get ahead, to stay on track, to keep moving forward. That's normal if you're a high achiever. What's exceptional is being able to turn that off so you have more to give when you turn it back on, and having a journal where you write down the ideas that you're carrying with you, where you write down what it is that you want to get out of your head and on paper so you can focus on it the next day and not have to think about it all night. That's a winning strategy. And if you're listening to this podcast and you've made it this far and you're listening here to minutes 6, 7, 8 as we go, that's winning behavior. So find a way to continue to separate who and do so you can have the best season of your life.
Thanks for checking out Mental Performance Daily with Brian Cain, an Ironclad original. If you like the show, be sure to leave us a rating, review, and comments. We'll see you tomorrow.
Hey, it's Brian, and I've got an exciting announcement coming soon about the opening of my MPM Coaches certification. Please go to briancain.com/certification and join our insiders list so you can save $200 off of registration, and make sure you get all the details about our opening of our MPM Coaches certification course.